Welcome to Philippine Normal University, South Luzon. Sa pagpasok natin sa pamantasan, una nating makikita itong guardhouse. Bago makapasok ang mga estudyante sa pamantasan, kinakailangan mo nang i-check ng ating mga security guards ang mga bag dahil mayroong polisiya ang pamantasan na bawal gumamit ng single-use plastic. Ayan, ito yung hallway at habang naglalakad ka sa hall, makikita mo ang iba't ibang bulletin boards dito. Dito makikita ang campus site plan at nandito rin ang ibang facts about PNU, katulad ng PNU seal, yung ibig sabihin ng PNU seal, University Maze, University Colors at yung ating PNU team. At dito makikita rin natin ang iba't ibang facts about sa PLE. Ito naman ay makikita natin ang bulletin board ng Office of Student Services. At sa katabi naman ay ang Office of the Student Government.
Dito naman sa bandang to, dito natin makikita ang mga announcement ng university at dito naman yung mga activities na ginagawa sa loob ng isang buwan, dito natin yung pinupost.
Makikita naman natin sa dakong ito ang canteen at sa taas ng canteen ay ang practice house na ginagamit ng mga HE students.
So both teachers and students ay dito kumakain sa ating canteen?
Yes, ma'am. Ang faculty, ang staff at mga students ay kumakain dito sa ating canteen.
Okay.
So, ito naman yung daan papunta sa mga building, iba pang building dito sa pamantasan.
So ngayon, nandito naman tayo sa bench area. So Martina, anong ginagawa dito madalas ng mga estudyante?
Usually, yung mga students dito kapag free time nila, kapag break time, dito sila tumatambay, nagchichikahan, ayan, minsan dito sila nagre-review and gumagawa ng mga assignment. So, ayun, parang, kasi very relaxing kasi yung ambience dito sa mga bench, kasi maraming puno, tapos mahangin, ayun, ganun lang. Tapos na. Nandito tayo sa Madrigal Building, o yung mas kilala bilang tawag na MB. Ayan, meron tayo dito ang kitchen laboratory. Dalawa yung kitchen laboratory natin dito. Ito, nandun yung 1 at ito naman yung 2. Ayan, kasunod na classroom naman, kasunod na room is yung project room. Meron din dyang mga sewing machines na ginagamit din for clothing and construction design. At ang kasunod naman na room, na kasunod ng project room ay ang classroom ng BMC or Bachelor in Mathematics and Science in Elementary Education. Ayan. Ito ang Madrigal Building. At sa bulletin board naman na ito ay makikita natin yung mga programs na ino-offer ng PNU South Luzon, which is the BTLE program and the BIMC program. Ayan.
So Martina, sabi mo bulletin board to ng BMC at BTLE. Ano bang ibig sabihin ng BMC at BTLE?
So ma'am, yung BTLE is Bachelor in Technology and Livelihood Education. Under na yung specialization ng Agri-Fishery Arts at Home Economics. Doon naman sa BIMC, ang BIMC ay Bachelor in Mathematics and Science in Elementary Education.
Okay, I see. Ito naman tayong kasunod.
Ayan. Kasunod naman po nito Madrigal Building or MB ay ang Nantes Building. So meron din kasi tayo dito mga pinatawag na PNU Way. Ayan, PNU once, meron tayong tinatawag na PNU Way. Ayan, doon sa PNU Way natin, yung mga students dapat dito lang tayo dadaan. Dahil dito ay madadaanan natin ang faculty rooms, which is hindi pwedeng mag-ingay kapag dadaan tayo dyan. Kaya ang mga estudyante ay dapat dito lamang dadaan. Pwede lamang sila dito dumaan kapag umuulan. Ayan. Since ako ay estudyante pa lamang, dito ako dumadaan sa daanan ng mga estudyante. Ayan, kapag dumadaan tayo dito sa Nantes Building. Ayan, isa sa ating mga PNU way din ay kailangan tayo ay maglalakad lang sa right side. Yung tinatawag nga natin na keep right. Ayan, dito naman makikita natin yung faculty room. Ayan, may faculty room dyan. Kasunod naman na room nito ay ang Office of Student Services. Kasunod naman ay ang accreditation room. Ito yung mga unang makikita natin dito sa Nantes Building. Ayan, so dito naman, kapag yung classroom mo ay dun sa dulo, at kapag nakita mo na may nagkaklase na dito, at saka doon sa kabila, ito yung N12 at N13, hindi ka pwedeng dumaan dito. Dapat, kung dun yung room mo sa dulo, iikot ka papunta doon kasi baka makaabala ka dun sa mga nagkaklase na. Ayan, yun ang N11, N12, and N13. Ayan, dito sa baba yung mga HE students.
Dito naman sa taas, anong mga rooms ang makikita natin?
Ay, nandiyan naman ma'am yung mga ano natin. Nandiyan yung ating library. Mamaya makikita natin yung ating library. And may mga rooms din dyan. Nandiyan naman yung room ng Agri-Featured Arts ng first year at saka ng second year.
Dito naman sa parteng ito, makikita natin ang Lopez National Comprehensive High School na katabi lang ng PNUSL. Yan ang kanilang grounds. Ang oval na tinatawag na ginagamit din ng PNUSL kapag kailangan sa mga activities.
Next. So ayan, habang naglalakad tayo dito sa hallway, ayan, dito naman sa pintong nito, ito ay parte para ng library. Ayan, dito naman sa parting ito yung guest room. Dito tumatanggap or dito natutulog yung mga guests kapag may mga dumarating. Ayan. Ayan siya. Wow. Ano ito? Lapit na. Yeah, sir. Hindi ako talis na dyan. So ngayon naman palabas na tayo ng ating non-test building. So on for our next spot.
Dito, ano naman tawag sa ginagawang building na to?
Ayan, yung tawag naman po dyan is yung Innovation Building. Ayan, yan yung first building dito sa Lopez Quezon na may elevator.
Ano namang madalas na ginagawa niyo dito sa gymnasium?
Ayan, yung madalas naman po namin na ginagawa dito sa gymnasium ay yung mga student activities. Merong mga student activities na initiated by the student government. Ayan, meron tayong ginaganap tuwing Wednesday na aerobics. Yung tinatawag natin na Wellness Wednesday na tuwing 6 a.m. or 5:45 a.m. ay ginaganap yung aming aerobics. Ayan, meron din ginaganap din ng mga organizational activities. Initiated naman yun by different interested clubs and university chapter organizations.
Nakakamiss maging college.
Kaya nga po. Kaya nga po, college naman ako eh. Ayun, yun lang po yung mga ginagawa namin dito. So, minsan nagkakaroon dito ng mga basketball, ang mga naglalaro yung mga students, and yung ibang professors ng PNU School. Ayun. So, yun lang yung mga ginagawa namin. Yun, kasama rin siya sa mga nililinis. So, every Wednesday nililinis din ito ng mga PNUSO students. So, one fact lang po, isa lang ang utility ng PNU South Luzon.
One man.
Yan, yes, one man. Kasi lahat ng students ng PNU South Luzon ay masisipag po. Yan, every Wednesday nagkakaroon kami ng general cleanup.
So, lahat naman pala ng students.
Yes, yes po. Tulong kami. Yes, tulong-tulong kami. So, meron ditong office of Student Government at ng Torch Publication. Pero hindi muna namin siya may papakita ngayon sapagkat under construction or under renovation aming mga offices.
So, banda dito naman, kasunod natin pupuntahan na yung administration building kung saan nandun ang office ng ating EDP,
Yes.
ng dean, at ng mga director ng mga offices. And nandito rin yung accounting office, cashier,
And registrar.
Action.
Ayan, dito naman tayo sa administration building. So dito, meron dito hagdan. Yung hagdan dito, ang mga pwede lang umakyat dyan, kasama yun sa PNU way natin. Ang mga pwede lang umakyat dyan ay ang faculty and staff. Siyempre si EDP at saka yung ating team. Pero ang students, doon sa kabilang hagdan lang pwede dumaan. Ayan. Ayan, dito makikita rin natin yung iba't ibang window. Ito yung window 1. Makikita niyo dyan si Ate Che. Ito naman yung ating window 2, ang ating registrar. Yung ating registrar ngayon is si Dr. Nolly De Ramos. Ayan. Yung ating window 3, yung ating cashier, si Ma'am Joy. And yung last window natin, yung ating window 4, ay ang accounting. Ayan. And dito naman yung BDO natin, or yung Business Development Office. Ayan. Dito rin yung office ng iba nating mga professors.
Dito naman, ito ang ating computer laboratory.
Ayan, meron dyang mga PC at saka meron din dyang mga smart board.
For students use
Yes.
computers.
Yes, so very open ang ating computer lab. So, ito naman yung pinakamalaking room dito sa PNUSL, yung hall. Tinatawag natin na iTech Hall.
iTech Hall. Ano naman ginagawa sa iTech Hall?
Yung madalas po dyan ginagawa is yung mga forum, yung mga formal events, yung mga kapag mag-represent ng research, ganyan, dyan ginaganap po. Instructional Technology Center. Ayan, yan yung meaning ng iTech. So, kasunod naman na office ay ang Office of the Director for Finance and Administration. Ayan. Dito nag-office yung ating Director for Finance and Administration, which is Professor Reynald Cacho. Ayan. Ito. And kasunod naman na office ay ang Office of the Dean for Academics and PLE. So yung ating Dean for Academics and PLE ay newly designated Dean dito sa PNUSL, si Dr. Rodrigo Avenes. Ito naman yung office niya. Ayan. Good afternoon po, sir.
Yan po, si Sir
Ayan,
Rod.
si Sir Rod ang ating Dean for Academics and PLE. So, ayan.
So, nandito tayo ngayon sa office ng ating Dean for Academics and PLE na si Dr. Rodrigo Avenes. Nakasalukuyang naglalunch.
Lalunch pa ako.
Ito ang kanyang office. Yes, and ako din na technical staff is dito rin ang office ko and yun ang aking table, doon ang aking corner.
Yes. At meron din dito, pinto talaga papunta dun sa kabilang room. Mamaya malalaman natin kung ano ba yung kasunod na room next to the office of the Dean for Academics and PLE. Right?
Yes, sir. Salamat po. Tuloy.
So, yung last office na ating i-visit ay ang office of the Executive Director and Provost, Dr. Joel Avila. So, ito yung office niya. Kaso, parang mukhang sarado. Oh, bukas! Bukas!
So, yung door na nakita natin dun sa office ni Dean ay door papunta dito sa office ng ating
Executive Director and Provost. Ayan.
Para sa ating last area, nandito naman tayo ngayon sa quadrangle na nasa harapan lang ng ating admin building. Dito sa quadrangle, dito naman ginagawa ang mga flag ceremony at flag retrieval ceremony.
Flag raising ceremony at flag retrieval ceremony. At dito na po nagtatapos ang ating virtual campus tour. Muli ako si Martina Gaza,
Ako si Hannah Rose Macula.
at maligayang pagdating sa Pamatasang Normal ng Pilipinas, Timog Luzon.
TVET is the official open access journal of Philippine Normal University, South Luzon, Philippines. It is a peer-reviewed, interdisciplinary, and multidisciplinary journal. The journal seeks to publish research articles, monographs, and book reviews across the different topics, with special emphasis but not limited to the following: technology and livelihood education, culture and heritage education, critical pedagogy and literacy, and local history. On our LUCAD journey, we were able to produce 3 webinars and a 3-day virtual conference on September 24 to 26, 2020. Tagalog term for removing coconut meat through special utensils. The process involves simple to complex methodologies, so coconut meat comes out whole. For more information, you may contact us through the following.
Mula sa tradisyonal Professor Reynald M. Cacho, bagaman tayo ay may kinakaharap na pandemya, iisa lamang ang prinsipyo: hindi dapat itigil ang pagkakatuto ng mga kabataan. Sabi nga ni Professor Reynald M. Cacho, ang Director for Finance and Administration, nararapat bigyan ng mas malinaw na pagpapaliwanag ang paghihila ng niyog mula sa tradisyonal na pagkontrol ng guro patungo sa malayang pagpapalitang turo.
I am certain that if we continue to work with each other, learn from each other while helping one another, we will come up with the best actions and interventions to address our education issues during this time.
Itong paghihila ay maraming daan, lahat patungo doon sa lukaran. Maraming salamat sa inyong lahat. Mabuhay ang saknungan, sama-sama, hati-hati.
Saknungan sa Bagong Kadawian.
TVET is the official open access journal of Philippine Normal University, South Luzon, Philippines. It is a peer-reviewed, interdisciplinary, and multidisciplinary journal. The journal seeks to publish research articles, monographs, and book reviews across the different topics, with special emphasis but not limited to the following: technology and livelihood education, culture and heritage education, critical pedagogy and literacy, and local history. On our Lukad journey, we were able to produce 3 webinars and a 3-day virtual conference on September 24 to 26, 2020. Lukad is a Tagalog term for removing coconut meat through special utensils. The process involves simple to complex methodologies, so coconut meat comes out whole. For more information, you may contact us through the following.
Gender equality is more than a goal in itself. It is a precondition for meeting the challenge of reducing poverty, promoting sustainable development, and building good governance. It is according to Kofi Annan. My utmost respect to the Executive Director and Provost of Philippine Normal University South Luzon, Dr. Roel V. Avila, Dean for Academics and TLE, Dr. Rodrigo D. Avenes, Officer in Charge, Finance and Administration, Engineer Dandy V. Suryo, Director, Student Services, Dr. Amor F. Lunisa, Head Knowledge and Management Office, Professor Reynold M. Cacho, Head of Quality Assurance, Professor Iron Jed E. Tombali, Head of Gender and Development, Professor Brenda B. Villamor, Director, Alumni Relation and Service Office, Dr. Edgardo S. Villa Sr., President of Faculty Union, Professor Iona Ophelia B. Zanoria, and President of Administrative Personnel and Staff, Mrs. Antoinette S. Barreto. And of course, to our guest speaker, to all faculty and staff, a pleasant afternoon and welcome to the webinar, Empowered Women and Technical Vocational Education and Training. I am Professor Siren Capistrano Osenia, your Master of Ceremony for today's webinar. To formally start our momentous webinar this afternoon, may I request to please rise as we pay tribute to our heroes by singing our Philippine National Anthem, and let's be one in mind, body and spirit as we praise and thanks our Almighty God for all of His graces and blessings through a doxology. At this juncture, let us hear the welcome message of our vibrant and energetic Dean for Academics and TLE, Dr. Rodrigo D. Avenes.
to our EDP, Dr. Wilby Avila, to our grad coordinator, Professor Brenda Villamor, and to the faculty and staff, to the students. Happy International Women's Month. Maybe you will ask, why webinar on women empowerment in Tibet? Professor Brenda and I came into a realization that our major activity for this month, celebration of International Women's Month, is more into gender and education. We have this theme because as a philosopher, I am convinced that philosophy as an ethical life is should be the heart of education. Or better still, in order to obtain John Dewey's utopian vision of democracy as an ethical life, that is education of the people, education by the people, and education for the people. This series of webinars, though is very interesting and relevant, seems that we are not yet able to look into the mandate of PNU South Luzon as technology and livelihood education hub. It was for this reason that I immediately informed Professor Brenda to message the TESDA Women's Center in this regard. Luckily, Dr. Angela Gonzalez, despite of her busy schedule, accepted our invitation. PNU South Luzon as TLE Hub is in its efforts in empowering women through our community programs in our adopted barangays here in Lopez, Quezon. But there are still many things to do. I personally believe that one way of empowering women is through Tibet, because in the history of social dialectics, Filipino women were given less opportunities to participate in public life and public sphere. Filipino women were seen as Simone de Beauvoir would say, as the second sex, for they're given less consideration in politics, literature, philosophy, and other ideological public life. With this bias and prejudices, PNU South Luzon would like, and also like TESDA Women's Center, looks at TVET as a potential for women empowerment. It's because through education in these programs, women will be able to participate in the public realm that is not limited into the private affairs of the kitchen. So now we are welcoming you to our webinar. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Abenes, for the warmest welcome. And now, for us to be familiar to our guest speaker of today's webinar, let us witness the introductory message of our functional faculty, Dr. Noli M. De Ramos, the OIC Registrar Office.
Hello, good afternoon. Ma'am Cyrene, naririnig na po ba ako?
Yes po, loud and clear.
Okay, good afternoon everyone. So it is my pleasure and privilege to introduce to you our speaker this afternoon in the webinar Empowered Women in Technical Vocational Education and Training, or TVET. So prior to joining TESDA in 2020 as TESDA Women's Center Chief, our guest speaker used to be an academic manager and full-time academician handling accounting, finance, and business courses, both for undergraduate and graduate studies in several schools, such as De La Salle College of St. Benilde, St. Paul University, Manila, St. Scholastica's College, San Beda College, and the University of Asia and the Pacific. Our guest speaker is also a certified public accountant by profession, where she started her career in a banking industry, but her love for teaching made her decide to join the academy in 1998. Dr. Gonzalez is a graduate of BS in Commerce, major in accounting at Colegio de San Juan de Letran in Manila, where she earned her master's degree in business administration at Pamantasan ng Lungsod ng Maynila, and finished her doctorate degree in business administration at St. Paul University, Manila, just last year, 2020, at the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. She is also an active parish volunteer and lay leader in their parish in Manila since she was a teenager. She believes that there is no such thing as too early to do service, whether to the parish or to the country. Serve while we are young and full of energy. That is why she joined TESDA, all for the service of the Filipino people. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming our guest speaker, Dr. Angelica S. Gonzalez. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Thank you, Sir Nolly, for that warm introduction. And I am pleased to be with you this afternoon. And I see that how many participants do we have? We have 50,
58.
asan na yun?
58.
58, including myself. So thank you for the invitation. And I am pleased to present to you and share the topic orientation on gender and development mainstreaming, also known as gender mainstreaming. So will somebody please share my presentation? Okay, there you go. So a pleasant afternoon again to each and every one of us. To all the WANAs present here, Happy Women's Month, and to all our male participants, to the Dean, to our registrar, and all the faculty. Thank you also for supporting our goal to achieve gender equality. So I have such an interesting topic to share with you, and I hope that you may be able to learn from this. Being a breeding ground, PNU, no? Pag sinabing PNU, breeding ground yan ng best educators in our country. So I'm really honored to be with you in this afternoon's webinar. So let me run you through the topics or the outline that I'm going to present. First up is there will be three. Now, rather, there are four topics that I would like to share with you. First is the GAD laws, gender and development laws and mandates. And then next is the TESDA's gender sensitive curriculum. The third one is application or applying gender fair language in education and training. And the last one is what we call CODI, or Committee on Decorum and Investigation. So at the end of my presentation, the following objectives, excuse me, we seek to achieve the following objectives. Number one, provide the participants with information on GAD laws and mandates. Number two, to share and present three enabling mechanisms of TESDA to effectively mainstream gender and development in the institution. And third, to raise the participants' level of awareness and appreciation on the significance of gender mainstreaming in the institution. So later on, maybe PNU may be able to adopt some of the things that I will share in terms of GAD. For my topic number one, let me share with you some GAD-related laws, no, and mandates. Okay, this is the SDG. Of course, we're familiar with this, Sustainable Development Goals, and part of our country, Philippines' international commitment for to the year 2030 Sustainable Development Goals. No, we are committed to contribute to SDG number 4, which is quality education. Excuse me. Quality education for all and promote lifelong learning to our learners. At the same time, we are also committed in implementing gender and development programs which can also contribute to SDG number 5, which is gender equality. So this is all about achieving gender equality and empowerment of women, and we do it through education and skills training, of course. So this means that through gender and development, or GAD, mainstreaming, we are equally contributing to two of the top priority of United Nations, no, which is equality education and gender gender equality. Next slide. The first GAD-related mandate can be traced from year 1948, no? Ang tagal na, no? During the United Nations General Assembly in Paris, no? This was held in December 10, 1948. This was known as the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, or UDHR. This is a milestone document in the history of human rights, which sets common standard of achievements for all peoples and all nations. So it sets all the first time the fundamental human rights which all human beings are inherently entitled, which needs to be universally protected. So in my next slide, you will see here, according to the first article of the UDHR, so it says, and I quote, "All human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights." It's Article 1 of the UDHR. And then on my next slide, to continue, we are mandated by the 1987 Constitution of the Republic of the Philippines. Article 2, Section 14 declares that the state recognizes the role of women in nation building and shall ensure the fundamental equality before the law of women and men. So therefore, through our own constitution, the position of the Philippines on women's rights is relatively developed compared to many other nations. Over the past century, noticeably developments have been made which have led to greater endorsement and protection of these rights. In the global gender gap index of 2017, excuse me, the Philippines ranked 10th. The Philippines ranked 10th out of 145 countries for gender equality. So that's something to be proud of, no? Because we're on the top 10, no, in terms of observing gender equality. Another law, GAD-related mandate, is the UN CEDAW. So we call it the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women. This was adopted by the UN General Assembly and came to effect in September 3, 1981. This is often described as the International Bill of Rights for Women, and it defines what constitutes discrimination against women and sets up an agenda for national action to end such discrimination. So it is important to note, ladies and gentlemen, that Philippines was the first ASEAN country to sign its participation on 1980 and prepared the first draft adopting by UN through our very own Senator Leticia Ramos-Shahani and a Russian delegate. So I don't know if some of you have known or have read about a good senator we had before, Senator Leticia Ramos-Shahani. So in the next slide, you will see here a picture of TESDA GAD focal point system with Senator Leticia Ramos-Shahani at the center, being the GAD advisor of TESDA since the establishment of TESDA Women's Center in 1998. On the next slide, you will see her picture. You will see her picture. Of course, she's one of the best Filipino senator, no? And a writer. Simply put, Let me quote what Ambassador Rosario Manalo, former chair of the Committee of Experts of the UNCEDAW, said about the senator. And I quote, "If the women of the world today enjoy what is known as the Bill of Rights, human rights for women, the whole world owes it to our very own Leticia Ramos Shahani. She has provided leadership at the United Nations and at the same time raising the profile of Philippines on the global stage." So we're proud of her rather. No? So we miss good senators, no, way back. They are brilliant, they are articulate, they are empowered. No? To continue, the localization of the UNCEDAW produced the concept of Philippines Women Economic Empowerment, or the WEE, through the enactment of Republic Act 9710, or the Magna Carta of Women. I'm sure you're familiar with the Magna Carta ng mga kababaihan. The MCW is a comprehensive women's human rights law that seeks to eliminate discrimination against women by recognizing, protecting, fulfilling, and promoting the rights of Filipino women, especially those, in the marginalized sector. Now, highlighting the Magna Carta of Women Rule number 4, Rights and Empowerment, section number 16, all agencies under the education sector, of course, that includes DepEd, CHED, and TESDA, shall ensure equal access and elimination of discrimination in education, scholarships, and training. Now, for TESDA, through the TESDA Women's Center, we provide free education and training opportunities for women, even in non-traditional trades. No? We have witnessed its impact in achieving economic empowerment to our women graduates. So, our flagship courses, ika nga, no, sa TESDA Women's Center, are non-traditional trades. So we believe that jobs, mga trabaho para kay Juan ay kaya ni Juana. So that's why we have welding, we have plumbing, we have automotive, and our target is always 80% women trainees or students. But we also accept men, no? And for my next slide, education and TVET related sections pa rin on Magna Carta of Women. So to promote gender equality and women's empowerment, the Philippines Magna Carta for Women requires supporting substantive equality between women and men and the empowerment of women, which includes the following. So you will see there in the slide, develop and promote gender sensitive curriculum, which I will share also with you. Develop gender-fair instructional materials, increase enrollment of women in non-traditional skills training. No school training institution shall turn out or refuse admission of female student solely on account of her being pregnant outside of marriage during her term in school or the training institution. Develop programs and policies to disseminate and prevent violence against women and children, coordination with PNP, DOJ, CHR, DSWD, and LGU, so that appropriate assistance are given to female faculty and students who are victims of rape, sexual harassment, and other forms of violence against women and discrimination. So that's a lot of sharing for the GAD related laws. No? So I hope you get a good grasp of them. Now for my topic number 2 on my next slide is TESDA's gender sensitivity curriculum. So in my presentation, I'll be discussing 3 effective gender mainstreaming mechanisms in TESDA. Now, which of course PNU may also adopt. Let us start with the gender sensitivity curriculum. So, under the Great Women Project funded by the Canadian International Development Agency, or the CIDA, the Philippine Commission on Women, and the United Nations Population Fund, TESDA developed its technical education and skills development curriculum with GAD components embedded into the basic competencies under NC levels 1 and 2. So you will see in my next slide, no? Since 2011, TESDA provided guidelines to all TTIs to implement competency-based training programs, including an orientation on gender and development principles. So these are circulars, no, which requires TESDA to include gender GAD principles, no, in our curriculum. So this is one of the major achievements of TESDA under the Great Women Project in partnership with the Philippine Commission on Women. The development of gender sensitivity TVET curriculum and standard training modules for the basic competencies have addressed one of the GAD mandates of TESDA under the Magna Carta of Women. So, and then again, these are again circulars. So it aims to, for TESDA circular number 26 years of 2012, it aims to institutionalize the use of gender sensitivity curriculum and gender sensitive trainers manual to produce gender sensitive TESD graduates and promote gender fair education in the TSD sector. Now, the next slide will give you a sample of our course design of basic competencies NC2. So you will see those in red highlights. Now, these are GAD related topics, no, learning outcomes that are injected in our curriculum. So you will see there differences, observing gender sensitivity in the workplace, learning outcomes, to discuss differences of sex and gender, discuss gender identity and sexual orientation, analyze different manifestations of gender inequality in Tibet, in society and in entrepreneurship, discuss gender rights, based approach and sexual reproductive health, including HIV/AIDS awareness and prevention. And then there you go. Those are the samples, no? This is another one. So unit of competency, practice, career, professionalism. The red ones are GAD related. And then for my next slide, a summary of basic GAD concepts being discussed in TVET trainees through basic competencies. So due to COVID-19, we have explored blended learning, no? As well as webinar series to continue teaching the trainees about GAD. So since last year, we also have series of webinars related to GAD. TESDA is also planning to develop an online courseware about GAD for all its employees and learners this 2021. So these are some topics of our that you will see in our gender sensitivity manual. We have gender and development, sexual orientation or the SOG, gender-based entrepreneurship, climate change, disaster risk reduction, green tech, sexual and repro health, solid waste management. Now, sharing with you in this slide, consolidated result of survey on the utilization of gender sensitivity curriculum and trainer's manual of 2015. So we had a research, no, we surveyed, no, and then the profile of our respondents. Let me give you a background of the profile. So next slide, please. So you will see here The respondents of this survey were gathered electronically from TES-Dakar, Region 1, Region 9, and Region 11. And then on the next slide, next slide, please. Yeah. Yes, I'll go directly to the result. So the number of trainees, okay, last 2015 from 4 TESDA regional offices, we have reported almost 8,000 trainees who were provided with basic competencies using TESDA's gender-sensitive curriculum, with 63.88% male participants and 37.12% of them are females. For the next slide, the rate of effectiveness of the gender sensitivity manual. So they said that 90.28% rather the effectivity rate of the gender sensitivity manual or curriculum was 90.28%. Very low. And then for my next slide, okay, there are also a reported appreciation rate of 94.44% among the respondents on the session plan, TG trainer's guide, PowerPoint presentation, trainer's handouts, and the competency assessment tools. Next slide. So that's 94.44 appreciation rate. Now, on the next slide, you will see here, let me share some comments of the respondents on the gender-sensitive curriculum. Activities are well sequenced, interesting, and are suited for the duration of the module, comprehensive and consistent. Trainees became more respectful to their co-trainees. Trainees have a clearer picture of the equality among sexes. So there you go. So for my next topic, topic number 3, applying gender language in education and training. So again, I'm sharing this. I'm sure PNU may be willing to apply such practices. Next slide. So to appreciate gender fair language, let us first discuss about sexist language. So familiar ba kayo dito? Ano yung sexist language? It is the use of language which devalues member of one sex. So hindi lang naman yung babae, no? Thus, fostering gender inequality. So merong discrimination na nagaganap, no? It discriminates against women by rendering them invisible or trivializing them while perpetuating notions of male supremacy. Yeah. Now, ano bang epekto ng sexism in language? So in my next slides, so we will focus more on the English language, which has been defined and dominated by the male voice throughout the history of mankind. No? Consequently, language has played strong role in upholding the existing patriarchal, no? Patriarchal kasi ang structure natin, no? Yung lalaki ang boss, siya ang head, no? Patriarchal structure of the society and the unconscious use of sexist language has been producing these effects. So ano yun? Number 1, loss of identity. So, sabi ng mga sinaunang tao, no, ang mga babae noon ay hindi sila pansin, hindi sila binibigyan ng importansya, no? Sila ay mga alipin lamang. Yan. Generalization. So, kumbaga ay kasama lang tayo, no, dun sa general na populace, no? Tayo yung mga parang sabit lang tayo. Pag nandiyan mga lalaki, okay na. Sabit na tayo dyan. Of course, discrimination. So, and then opposite implication. Okay? So, women, Now, know your place. Noon daw hindi bumoboto ang mga kababaihan. Hindi na natin naabutan yun. No? Now women are empowered. Now look at the next slide. So some examples of sexist language in comics. I brought you to the office today, honey, to show you what you could look forward to if you were a man. And then another example on the next slide of a sex. I just have to answer an important call. Please excuse me.
Ma'am Brenda, parang nakamute yata si Ma'am Angelica, Dr. Gonzales.
Hindi, sir. Mag-a-answer daw ng call.
Okay, okay.
I'm so sorry. I just have to attend to an important call. So let me go back to, sorry about that. So another example of sexist language. Ito, ano ba yan? You've heard of objectophilia. It's when you're attracted to objects. Oh, I have that. Really? Yeah, I'm attracted to women. Aray, di ba? Ginawa tayong object. Tayo ay mga ano lang, object. So there is no escaping gender, no, in language. So for the next slide, the importance of language. Now, why we need to be concerned on mere language or words. Let me emphasize on the importance of language. So the meanings of words in a language are the community's store of established knowledge. No? So etong language, hindi natin ito pwedeng ipagwalang bahala. No? Like this is the language is a mode of communication. And if there are sexist language, no, kawawa ang mga kababaihan. No? The values of preoccupations with culture are learned through language, right? Language is the chief instrument of socialization. So, sabihin, salita lang naman yan, no? Masyado naman kayong sensitive, no. So, it is very important to us, no? Because what they say is what is being perceived of us. So, kung hindi ka pinahalagan sa salita, malamang ganun din sa gawa, no? Some examples on the next page. So look at this. This is a comparative, no? Comparative use of language. So instead of using policeman, so we use police officer, diba? Law enforcement officer. So these are alternatives. Congressman, representative, member of the Congress, Congress member, legislator. Yan mga pwede, diba? Instead of saying housewife or husband, homemaker will do. Male nurse, just simply say nurse. Babae yan or lalaki, nurse. Weatherman. Diba? The sexist language, no, ito na yung mga kinalakhan natin, diba? Workman, worker, pwede naman. Working men, workmen, workers, wage earners. Manpower, diba? Manpower talaga tawag natin, ano, dun sa sa ating puwersa ng mga manggagawa. So we say human resources, we say staff, personnel, or labor force. Next slide, please. So avoiding sexist language. So sa pronouns, naabutan ko to eh. When they say him, his, ano na daw yan, pasok na daw ang babae dyan. So hindi na kailangang lagyan ng her. Pag his daw, understood na. So when using pronouns, you have several choices. Pick the one that seems most natural in context. So change singular nouns to plurals and use a gender neutral pronoun. Or try to avoid the pronoun entirely. No? Example, next slide. Instead of saying each student must have his notebook with him in class. So you just say all students must have notebooks with them in class, right? So instead of saying a senator who cannot finish his term, so you say a senator who cannot finish the term of office, or senators who cannot serve a full term of office. Next slide. If you think you must use a singular adjective like each or every, try to avoid using a pronoun. So instead of each student must hand in his homework on Thursday, so you may use each student must hand in the assigned homework on Thursday, right? We have another example on the next slide. When eliminating the pronoun seems unavoidable, di mo maiwasan gumamit ng pronoun, just use both male and female pronouns. So instead of saying a student should meet his advisor, so we say a student should meet with his or her advisor, right? On the next slide, we have more examples. So job title. So try to eliminate the pronoun. Instead of saying the nurse awoke her patient, so you say the nurse awoke the patient. A truck driver should plan his route carefully. A truck driver should plan the travel route carefully. So on the next slide, be careful about using constructions like his, her, she, he. So many people find these awkward and distracting. Instead of sex-linked titles, try neutral titles, no? Yun nga, fire person is awkward. Awkward nga naman pag fire person, no? You may use firefighter. Police person, sounds silly, but police officer will do, no? It sounds neutral. Male person, ano yan, seems awkward. So you say postal worker. Or, so we call it courier, di ba? Now, on the next slide, for our conclusion, sexist language is a basic and important issue once seen in the context of a patriarchal culture and gender ideology it produces. So, ayun. And then, we should not allow our own linguistic practice to go unexamined. So we have to be conscious on how we address or say things, no? And then we should make a genuine effort to change recognized sexism in language in the interest of gender fairness in the society. So, sexism is discrimination on the basis of gender. Ayun. Let me drink some tea. Sandali ah. So I hope we're doing good. Are we okay at the moment? So far, we've touched on GAD related laws and then curriculum, GAD sensitive curriculum. And then we have the gender language. And then on topic number 4. Am I going too fast? Tama lang naman, di ba? For my topic number 4, establishment of committee on decorum and investigation, or we call this CODE, on sexual harassment cases. Now, on this slide, you will see facts about sexual harassment. We are quite familiar about sexual harassment that can take place anywhere, no? Public places, online, di ba? Workplace, and even in education and training settings. Here are its common forms. So meron tayong, ayan, offering benefits for sexual favor or unwanted sexual advancements. We have threats or retaliation to say no. We have visual conduct, suggestive gestures. No? We have verbal conduct, derogatory comments, and we have physical conduct, body position, or touching. No? I'm sure one way or the other, some of you have experienced this, no? Minsan sinisipulan ka sa daan, naglalakad ka, tinawag kang, hello sweetheart, hi honey, mga ganyan. Those are sexual harassment, no? That is very rampant, no? And it's not okay. So, next slide, please. So, the violence against women in workplace, schools, and public places, no, must be not tolerated. No, there should be zero tolerance policy on sexual harassment. No, and we should voice out that we are not tolerating sexual harassment in any form and in any place. Now, on my next slide, you will see here the sexual harassment related laws and mandates. Republic Act 7877. It is an act declaring sexual harassment unlawful in the employment, education, and training environment, and for other purposes, also known as the Anti-Sexual Harassment Act of 1995. The employer or head of office in a work-related education and training environment shall create a committee on decorum and investigation of cases on sexual harassment. In fact, next slide, please. Social Service Commission Resolution number 1-0940 states that the administrative disciplinary rules on sexual harassment cases dated May 21, 2001 directed that a committee on decorum and investigation shall be created in all national and local agencies of the government, state colleges and universities, including government-owned and controlled corporations with original charter. So I hope PNU has created such as this already. And if not, of course, you may always create one. And the next slide, you will see here latest law protecting Filipinos against violence and its forms, the Safe Spaces Act. So this is an act defining gender-based sexual harassment in streets, public spaces, online, workplaces, educational and training institutions, and providing penalties. No? The older law recognizes that sexual harassment occurs in work, education, training environment, and penalizes persons who have authority, influence, and moral ascendancy in such institutions who commit prohibited acts of sexual harassment. However, it did not cover other incidents of sexual harassment, such as those between peers, and co-employees, or those which happen in the streets, public, and online spaces. So that is why, on the next slide, RA number 11313 of the Safe Spaces Act, which was signed into law last April 17, 2019, addresses these gaps in our legal framework of recognizing that sexual harassment can be committed between peers or by a subordinate to a superior. Kasi palaging pababa, no? Si boss sa kanyang empleyado. Pwede rin naman kasing peer, same rank, at saka subordinate to superior. By a student to a teacher, or by a trainee to a trainer. The law also outlines additional duties and corresponding liabilities for employers and heads of schools and training institutions to ensure that sexual harassment complaints in their respective institutions are addressed appropriately. Notably, ladies and gentlemen, the law also penalizes sexual harassment, which also occurs in other environments, such as public spaces and online platforms. So this is signed by President Duterte, and you will see here yung timeline, no, ng Spaces Act, Safe Spaces Act. On the next slide, you will see here law covers the sexual harassment in streets and public spaces, such as streets and alleys, public parks, school buildings, malls, bars, restaurants, transportation terminals, public markets, spaces used in evacuation centers, government offices, public utility vehicles, as well as private vehicles covered by app-based transport network services like Grab, and then other recreational spaces such as, but not limited to, cinema halls, theaters, and spas. Okay, this law, the Safe Spaces Act, no, was dubbed as a game changer in the legislation. The Bawal Bastos law, if fully implemented, it will promote policy change, behavioral change, and cultural change. Re-reformahin ito ang ating mga batas at polisiya ukol sa gender-based public harassment. Babaguhin ito ang ating mga pag-uugali at paggamit ng ating lengguwahe sa mga kababaihan at maging sa mga kasama sa LGBT community para maisulong at ang pagrespeto sa bawat Pilipino. Babae man o lalaki, may edad, kabataan, kasama man sa LGBT community o anumang estado sa buhay at kung anumang profile nito, no, kailangan ng pagrespeto bilang isang tao. Ano? And then, you will see here, what are the types of gender-based online sexual harassment? So ito mukhang nauuso ito, no, yung online sexual harassment, no? Online sexual harassment refers to conduct targeted at a particular person that causes or likely to cause another mental, emotional, or psychological distress and fear of personal safety. Sexual harassment acts, including unwanted sexual remarks and comments, threats, uploading or sharing one's photos without consent, video and audio recording, cyber stalking, and online identity theft. No? At very rampant itong mga ganitong kaso, ano? At sana may maparusahan, no? Pero wala pa ako nababalitaan na parusahan. No? Minsan ang ating mga batas ay nandyan lahat. Ang nagiging problema ay implementation, ano? Do you agree? Na kumpleto naman minsan sa sobrang daming batas, no? Hindi nai-implement ng tama. So, sana ang ating mga mambabatas, mga taga-implement nito ay maging seryoso at magkaroon ng political power gawin kung ano ang dapat gawin. Ano? Okay. In this slide, you will see what are the duties of school heads under the law. Of course, number one, disseminate information on the law. So, kailangan alam ng bawat stakeholder, lahat ng stakeholders ng mga colleges and universities, no, ang about ang mga batas na may kinalaman sa Safe Spaces Act. Provide measures to prevent gender-based sexual harassment in educational institutions. Create a committee on decorum and investigation to investigate and address complaints of gender-based sexual harassment. So liabilities and penalty. For non-implementation of their duties, ayan, merong fine na 5,000 to 10,000 pesos. Failure to act on reported cases of gender-based sexual harassment committed in the educational institution, a fine of 10,000 to 15,000 pesos. On my next slide, so this is a copy of TESDA's Committee on Decorum Investigation, or CODI, in the central office and all regional offices. No, so we were ano yun, we were obliged, no, to come up with a CODI. No, obligado ang bawat opisina, no, and the members of which, on my next slide, CODI composition, the chairperson must be the head of the TVI, the institution. Chairperson, vice chairperson rather, can be either be the vice president or head, legal department, or the guidance counselor. And then members should be representatives of admin division, part of the faculty or trainer, represented from the student body, student council, or the trainee. The committee officials and members shall serve for a term of 2 years from the date of their appointment as embodied in the Civil Service Commission Resolution number 010940. Next slide, you will see here Memorandum number 46, years of 2017, establishment of CODI in TTIs and TVI. So here are the roles and responsibilities of CODI, of chair or the head of the TVI. Number one, investigate every formal written complaint of sexual harassment by transmitting the grievance to the Committee on Decorum and Investigation, and impose strict disciplinary measures when a complaint of employment-related sexual harassment is found to have been substantiated, regardless of the position and status of the offender. Number two, act all in its power to provide support and assistance to employees of the agency and applicants who are subjected to sexual harassment, whether one or both parties involved are employed within the same agency. Number three, render decision on the case within 30 days from receipt of the report of the investigation. And then on the next slide, you will see here roles and responsibilities of the officials or the members of the CODI. Investigate and hear sexual harassment complaints in accordance with the prescribed procedures of the Civil Service Commission Resolution number 010940. Ensure that no compliant shall be subjected to further harassment or retaliation by the person alleged to have committed the act of sexual harassment. Strictly maintain confidentiality in all stages of the proceedings to protect the interest of the complainant, the person complained against, and any other person who may report cases of sexual harassment. Prepare and submit a report of its findings with corresponding recommendations to the disciplining authority or the head of the agency for decision, and guarantee the execution of penalty to any person who is found guilty of sexual harassment corresponding to the gravity and seriousness of the offense. So as a summary, I'm done. It has been my pleasure and opportunity to discuss with you GAD-related laws and mandates, especially in the education sector, as well as to share TESDA's gender mainstreaming mechanism, the gender sensitive curriculum, applying gender fair language in the institution, establishment of a strong and functional CODI, which prevents and handles cases of sexual harassment. May we all do our duties and responsibilities, obligations to pursue a more gender fair and safe education and training institution for all our learners. Have a good day, everyone, and thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Dr. Angelica S. Gonzalez, for a very remarkable, informative, and inspiring message to all of the participants. It will help us to motivate and uplift our capability as one optimistically. And now, before we give the certificate to our guest speaker, let's grab the opportunity to have some queries and clarifications with regards to the topic that she successfully tackled a while ago. Okay, so we will accommodate the queries and questions.
Ma'am Cyrene, may question ako kay Dr. Gonzalez.
Yes po, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gonzalez, for the talk. My question is, since PNU South Luzon is actually we are going to have our SWOT analysis, and we wanted to strengthen TVET programs in PNU South Luzon. But the problem is we're trying to take a look at certain partnerships. For example, with the reason we invited, for example, you as the chief of DESTA Women's Center, it's because we wanted to strengthen partnership through public and private or public partnership. So, meron na po ba tayong, for example, ang TESTA Women's Center na partnership na existing na ganun, so that we will be able to look into that possibility, particularly in SUC?
Yes, sir. Actually, we do have partnerships, no, and we want partnerships, no, for local government, higher education institutions, and we may explore into how we may partner in terms of the programs that we offer. No, right now, the Women's Center actually is we're planning to offer a diploma course, and we're looking into partners. Yeah, we're looking into partners for higher education, so that we may have close collaboration and a good curriculum design, no? Because the diploma course that we want to offer, of course, you're familiar that the based on the Philippine qualifications framework, TESDA is on level NC level 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Pagdating sa HEI ay yung higher qualification. So we want to offer ladderized courses going to baccalaureate degree. Because nakakalungkot kasi ang alam mo, the Philippine education, no, yung mga kabataan natin, even ang mga nanay, no, hindi sila familiar doon sa TVET na nasa gitna. So from basic ed, diretsong higher ed. So K-12, baccalaureate degree. While other yung mga bansa na mauunlad, nandun napaka-strong ng TVET nasa gitna. So ito kasi yung labor force nasa gitna, napapabayaan. At kami ngayon sa TESDA, talagang we are strengthening our collaboration from basic ed at saka yung nandun sa taas para ipakilala ang TVET. Kasi ang TVET, andito ang workforce, ito yung ang bubuhay sa ekonomiya ng bansa. At after nila ng mag K-12, mag-TVET sila, employable na sila. That's why very heavy no talaga ang aming partnership with the employers right now. Talagang ang lakas ng aming collaboration with them, and we're happy kasi marami ng mga iba't ibang industriya no ang bukas na mag-employ ng mga TVET graduates. Ngayon, pag nakapagtrabaho na itong mga galing sa senior high school na ito at nag-TVET, 2 years or months of training in TVET, and they want to pursue more and go up the managerial or the corporate ladder, mag-baccalaureate degree ka. 'Di ba? Kasi ang nangyayari ngayon, pagka-graduate ng high school, diretso na sa ano. Kasi wala namang experience, 'di ba? Andito sa TVET, nasa gitna siya. So, yeah, we're looking for partnerships, no? We are open to that, and maybe we can have another venue exploratory meeting, so how we can partner with us. So, maganda talaga magkaroon ng partnership, no? Itong tatlong pillars ng education na pag-iwanan si TVET, nasa gitna siya. So, sana, that's why I love going into talks and webinars din, especially sa mga high school, para maipakilala ang TVET, no? Sayang kasi, andito yung pera, hindi nila alam. So, andito yung opportunity to work. Andito yung pwede ka nang mag-start ng entrepreneurship. Hindi mo nga kailangan mag-baccalaureate degree, 'di ba? Now, sayang yung pagkakataon. Libre. 'Di ba? TVET, TESDA is here, libre. Ang nakakalungkot, meron tayong mga kumakapit sa patalim na kababayan, no? Kumakapit doon sa mga private institution na TESDA accredited kuno, no? Peperahan sila o bigyan namin kayong NC certificate, magbayad kayo ng ganito. May mga nakakarating. Hinuhuli na namin sila. Yun lang, sir. Yes, let's have an exploratory meeting on what part of our operation we may collaborate.
Yes po, because PNU South Luzon po kasi the mandate is not just in TLE but also in teacher education, particularly in relation to TVET. So one of our evaluation, particularly with regards to the syllabus of or the curriculum of TLE based on the existing CMO, is that this is not aligned with the Philippine Qualification Framework. Kasi dapat, for example, first year, second year, nandun dapat yung mga NCs. And right now, we are trying to see the opportunity na possibility of parang a ladderized program, kasi we are thinking of parang innovating the curriculum that we have, okay, particularly going into, kasi with the new normal, nakikita po rin kasi namin na parang positive din kasi siya na nangyayari ngayon. It's because we are parang looking into its opportunities. So just like, for example, one of the problems na nakikita ko, you made mention, marginalization of TVET. So that is one thing. The other one is the difficulty that we have is we are in PNU, we are in Lopez, Quezon. So as you can see, Lopez po ay medyo malayo. So we don't have industries kasi wala mga technoparks and etc. So meaning to say, sooner or later, our students need to be in the industry. So ang nagiging worry is medyo mas nagiging theoretical ang mga estudyante rather than into the industry, ano. So that's why sabi namin siguro I really like the way or the modules that you have in TESDA Women's Center. It's because parang we don't need to start from scratch. It's because it's already integrated. And I think siguro si Ma'am Brenda would help us out, particularly in articulating this module. So we are really looking forward po, particularly with this partnership. So siguro mag-schedule na rin po kami ng consultative meeting na gaya po ng nabanggit niyo. So marami pong salamat.
Yeah, sure. We may schedule one. So no problem with that. We may collaborate and help each other, no? Kasi pare-parehong ating adhikain, no? Mapabuti yung education system ng ating mga bata para gumanda naman, no, yung ating yung buhay ng mga tao, hindi lang ng mga para sa bansa. Ganyan.
Yes, ma'am. Actually, ma'am, in the Office of the Gender and Development, in our plan is to really integrate gender in the curriculum. So yung mga TLE subjects po, and you mentioned a while ago na you have already the program, you mentioned about the modules that you have made in TVET, in TESDA pala. So pwedeng later on, ma'am, ay pwedeng we can help, we will ask help in how to, kasi yung ginagawa po ng faculty is we make modules, we make in every subject, naggagawa po kami ng mga materials so that lalo na dito sa flexible learning, so we can seek help from TESDA about how to really mainstream God in the materials that we are doing.
Yeah. Let me just add, no, meron kaming certified GAD personnel. So it's let me share also ang Philippine Commission on Women, no. They give such training. So ngayon yata parang they will strengthen it kasi for a while I think they stopped the training and giving certification. So we're very blessed kasi sa aming center, meron kaming certified GAD person. So later on, maybe we will endorse you to Philippine Commission on Women so that your Godhead may be certified, and that will be very helpful in mainstreaming GAD in your curriculum.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much po, Dr. Gonzalez. We really learned a lot from your answer. And of course, it is based on the TESDA vision that TESDA is the leading partner in the development of the Filipino workforce with world-class competence and positive work values. Kagaya po ng sinabi nyo, hindi na kailangan kumapit sa patalim sapagkat sa TESDA, nandun ang pera. Kailangan lang nating tuklasin at paglaanan ng panahon. Okay, let's accommodate some queries and questions.
Pwedeng
habang kasama pa natin ang ating guest speaker.
You can type in the chat box your questions, if there are questions from the students.
Do we have mostly students ba ang participants natin? We also have faculty?
Yes, ma'am. We have faculty and we have also students, ma'am. And staff po. Staff po, ma'am.
Okay, may tanong pa po kaya? You're still waiting for some questions and clarifications?
Ma'am Grace, do you have a question? Nag-open cam si Ma'am Grace. Magtanong po tayo. At sayang naman yung time na nandito po ang ating chief ng TESDA Women's Center. Habang nag-iisip po sila ng tanong. I'm just curious po, ma'am, sa CODI, may cases po ba na mga yung sexual harassment talaga in TESDA? And what are usually the cases na mga ganun?
At the Women's Center, so far wala. Kasi, well, we are the, kumbaga, TWC is the only institution or TESDA school, no, that advocates really the gender sensitivity and GAD. In fact, we are the secretariat of the National TESDA in terms of GAD. So sa amin wala. But in others, yes, there are. Sa ibang region, nagkakaroon. And that are being dealt for properly, and nagkakaroon naman ng, shall I say, yung makatarungan, no, na judgment para doon. Napaparusahan. Yeah. And of course, syempre hindi naman natin binobroadcast yan, but we deal with them really.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much po again,
Ma'am
Dr.
Cyrene, meron pa
Gonzalez.
last question
From the
siguro.
faculty,
Ma'am Cyrene, may last question pa ako kay Dr. Gonzalez.
sige po, sir.
Dr. Gonzalez, as I look into your program, for example, yung universal access to tertiary education in Testament, what makes it different from the other institutions that you have, for example, into other TESDA or TVET accrediting institutions? Ano po yung pinagkaiba niya?
Pinagkaiba ng alin, sir?
Kung this one po, yung pre-competency based training programs under Universal Access to Quality Tertiary Education Act. Kasi we're trying to explore it po kasi ang amin pong we realize when during my talk with Cyrene na naka-cater lang po kami into 4 years. So gusto rin po kasi namin explore yung TVET aspect ng universal tertiary education. Kasi sabi gusto yung opportunity ng SUC. And based on our observation, napansin po din namin na one of the problem of TESDA is highly privatized ang TVET natin, ang TVET education natin kasi sobrang daming mga private providers rather than public providers. So ano po yung pinagkaiba nung program ng Universal Tertiary Education Act sa TESDA Women Center with other programs na meron po yung other SUC, for example, TESDA, accrediting agency, etc. po?
Yung tinatawag na universal, we call it UAQT eh. Actually, sa TESDA, iba't iba yung tawag namin sa scholarship. In terms of program, programs are unique, no, among the different TVIs. No, like for example, in our center, sa TESDA Women's Center, we have the non-traditional trade. Yung sinasabi ko kanina na panglalaki, ino-offer namin sa pangbabae, no? So, yung UAQT, UA Universal Access to Tertiary Education, in fact, ano siya, sir? It's a, how shall I call it? It's a scholarship program. So, we speak of budget pagka UAQTE. Parang ano siya eh, meron kaming training for work, merong QA, universal access, tapos merong STEP. Budget ang pinag-uusapan doon. Pero in terms of program, walang pinagkaiba. Wala namang pinagkaiba or pinagka-differential sa ibang TVI. Programs are unique among different TVIs. Depende sa thrust ng school ng TVI. Like for example, our thrust talaga ay specialized sa women. So ang ibang schools, ganun din, meron din silang specialization. Now, if you want to explore that, you may do so. You just have to apply for accreditation sa TESDA and become TVI offering diploma courses. Maaari yon. Kasi sayang eh, marami kasing mga bata na hindi na nag-e-enroll sa kolehiyo kasi pupunta sila sa mga walang bayad, 'di ba? Kayo libre din naman ang ang tuition ng mga bata, tama ba?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Oo. So advantage na on your part kasi you may offer TVET courses. So, yeah, you may explore that kasi sayang yung opportunity. Baka maari kayong mabigyan ng budget ng TESDA para doon. You just apply for accreditation so that you may be given a slice of the anong tawag doon? Slice of the budget of the universal access.
Thank you very much po for the answer and clarifications. So now, is there some queries or questions?
Tanong lang, Ma'am Cyrene.
Yes po, Professor Samson.
We offer kasi ma'am ng education in TLE wherein ang ano nila doon ay pang professionalism sa education. But technically, sana we're looking kung merong facilities o program ang TESDA na kung saan itong mga future teacher ng TLE ay ganun din ang kanilang sa technical, technical aspect. For example, home economics. So ang daming sector niyan. Isang sector ng TESDA ay ang home economics and the agri-fishery arts. So isang sector yan, napakadami siyang mga competencies. So ang namin, kasi naka-align din po yung mga syllabus namin, yung sa ng TESDA, no, yung mga content namin nakaano rin sa TESDA, mga competency. So ang ko po ay tanong kung sana po ay magkaroon ng program or meron ba or wala na yung collaboration po na itong mga future teacher the same time bago sila maging lisensyado, yung po bang they are din talaga technically kumbaga equipped din doon sa skills na kinukuha nila at ituturo nila. Kasi sabi niyo nga po kanina na nasa gitna yung TESDA, parang parang naiiwan kumbaga from high school diretso kagad sa college. So ang po kasi kahit naman po ngayon ang mga teacher talaga no na professional nagtuturo ng TL sila sa teste no nagkumukuha rin ng mga ng NC nag-TPM pa sila professional na sila Paano ba kung halimbawa dito pa lang sa curriculum pa lang nila baka pwede na tayong meron ng sa mga ganitong mga courses na magkaroon ng tulong kumbaga kung paano tayo mag-collaboration dito na mas makaka-inspired kasi itong mga teacher na to in the future kasi talaga bago sila mag-teacher skilled na sila tapos hindi lang basta certificate ang nakukuha kung hindi talaga yung immersion talaga na ng TESDA rin parang ganyan accredited din ng TESDA yung lugar na ito parang ganyan po yun po ang tanong ba o suggestion parang ganyan.
Tama ka ma'am, I agree with you kasi for example, ganito, I'll share this with you. I'm a CPA, and then, nung in-invite ako, when I was with the academe, full-time faculty, administrator sa isang school, yung isang taga-TESDA sabi niya, Angie, kulang kami ng assessor sa bookkeeping. Sabi niya. Sabi ko, okay. Sabi ko, I can be one. Alam mo, sabi niya, you have to take the NC3 bookkeeping. Sabi ko, bakit ako kukuha niyan? I'm already a CPA. Sabi ko, paatras ba yung career ko? Sabi ko, no, I will not. Sabi ko, ganyan. Sabi, no, kasi sabi na, it's really a requirement. Nasa training regulation ng TESDA that if you want to become a CPA, rather an assessor, dapat may NC3 bookkeeping ka. Yun ang sabi. You know what? Talagang, what? Sabi ko, no, thank you, I will not. Sabi ko, ayoko. So, pero sa madaling sabi, napilit niya din ako mag-NC3 kasi kaibigan ko yun nangungulit lang siya. So, napilitan lang akong kumuha. So, kaya naging assessor ako. Ngayon, sabi nilang ganyan, okay, Angie, sayang, mag-train ka ng bookkeeping sa TESDA. Sabi ko, I don't like. Sabi niya, sige na mag-train ka. Oh, sige. Sabi ko, bigyan niyo ako ng schedule for a training. No, you have to take TM1. Sabi niya, yung trainer's methodology 1. I don't know if you've heard of that. So, kailangan ko daw mag-TM1. So, ano yun? It's several months training to teach in test so that I may be able to teach daw. Teka muna, sabi ko, anong tuturo ko dyan? Para maging bookkeeping trainer ka. Sabi ko, hindi lang bookkeeping ang tinuturo ko sa college. Sabi ko, I teach major accounting subject. Yung bookkeeping, kahit nakapikit ako, kaya ko ituro. Hindi ko kailangan ng TM1, sabi ko. So, yan, I agree with you, no? Sinasabi mo na, itong mga estudyante natin to, pag graduate, they are competent, no? But they have to undergo training. So, ang question ni ma'am, paano ba na pag graduate nila sa inyong university, ay pwede na silang magturo ng TVET. So, ang kailangan ay yung TM1 na tinatawag. Actually, kahapon ma'am, nag-iisip ako. Nakakatuwa nga parang we are on the same line of thinking. Sabi ko, meron kayang baccalaureate degree to teach TVET, in TVET? Sabi kong ganyan. Sabi ko, sana mayroong school na nag-o-offer na pag graduate niya, pwede na siyang dumiretso as trainer ng TESDA. Eh, hindi ngayon ang ganun ang nangyayari. You have to take the TM1, TM2, TM3. So, may ganon. So, to answer your question, wala pa pong ganon. And that's a good idea. I thought of that also, no, na sana may mga kolehiyo na mag-collaborate sa TESDA para maipasok na yung TM1 dun sa kanilang baccalaureate curriculum. I don't know if it's possible. Yun.
May question po sa chat box. Babasahin ko na lang po. Good afternoon, good afternoon po. I am from Region 4A and a teacher from public high school. So may kasama pa pala tayong outside PNUSL. Welcome po, ma'am. And handling TVL, HE Senior High School. Question ko po, mas binibigyan po ba talaga ng priority sa TESDA scholarship for trainers methodology ang mga trainers from private TESDA accredited center than teacher or trainer from public high school?
Ma'am, wala pong ganon na pinaprioritize. Wala pong ganon. Lahat po ay maaring mag-enroll ng TM sa pinakamalapit ninyo pong TESDA center. You just coordinate with the district where you belong. Magpalista po kayo at wala pong pinaprioritize.
Okay po.
Yes, thank you po, Dr. Gonzalez.
Ma'am Cyrene,
And
meron
now
po
we'll
kitang
still
isang
waiting.
lang.
Yes, sir.
Kasi medyo I like the comment of Dr. Gonzalez regarding dun sa TVET assessor, because PNU South Luzon is a technology and livelihood education hub. And based on my assessment, parang ang tingin po kasi nila sa TLE is more into teacher education, which sooner or later I'd realize that TLE should be extended into TVET as well, na parang titingnan po yung holistic education ng TVET, particularly, for example, assessors and etc. It doesn't mean na teacher ka, kailangan magpasa ka ng LET, hindi eh. So parang ang pumapasok din po sa isip ko na parang in order to fulfill the mandate, kasi yun po yung iniisip ko, actually we are in the same idea that we wanted to have that track na hindi ibig sabihin na nakatapos ng bachelor's degree, for example, in education, hindi na siya pwedeng maging pero kasi pwede siyang maging assessor, pwede siyang magturo sa TVET pagkatapos ng NC2 and etc. It's because we are creating pathways as well. So meaning to say, with that idea po, you're telling na talagang there's really a need to have a comprehensive view of TVET education. So rather than focusing in TLE.
Yes, I agree. That's right.
Okay, thank you very much po for the sharing, Dr. Abenes. And now, let's call again for it's just a gentle reminder. Please kindly answer the survey in our chat box for the students and of course for the other participants. Ma'am Brenda?
Yes, ma'am.
Parang wala na po tayong mga tanong.
Wala nang tanong from students, from the staff, from the faculty, from our participants outside PNUSL. May kasama po pala tayo na from public high school dito sa Region 4A. Thank you for joining us in this webinar.
Okay, so if there's none, perhaps all of the participants informed well and they really understand what are the topic that we have tackled this afternoon. So at this juncture, let's give our guest speaker a round of applause for her time and effort exerted in our webinar. Thank you very much po. Congratulations for the learning. I believe that the secret behind these accomplishments are the invaluable effort and dedication with the commitment and shared ideas with wisdom. So let's have the certificate. But before we proceed to the giving of the certificate, allow me to read the content. Philippine Normal University South Luzon, the National Center for Teacher Education, the Technology and Livelihood Education Hub, Locas, Quezon. Certificate of recognition is hereby awarded to Angelica S. Gonzalez, CPA, DBA, for sharing her expertise as resource speaker and the webinar on empowered women and technical vocational education and training, TVET, hosted by Philippine Normal University South Luzon via Zoom application on March 12, 2021. Given this 12th day of March 2021, signed Ruel V. Avila, EDD PhD, Executive Director and Provost, Philippine Normal University South Luzon. Again, let's give our guest speaker a round of applause.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome po. So to formally close this webinar this afternoon, let's have the closing remarks spearheaded by our GAD officer, Professor Brenda B. Villamor.
Okay. In behalf of the Office of the Gender and Development of PNU South Luzon, we would want to extend our heartfelt gratitude to our resource speaker, Dr. Angela S. Gonzalez, the Chief of the TESDA Women's Center. Thank you for your time and for enlightening us about the gender programs in TVET, and we look forward for more partnership with TESDA as we will be mainstreaming gender and development in our TLE curriculum. And also we look forward also that we will be having more partnership with TESDA in as we offer the TLE curriculum in our school. So to everyone who made this program a success, to our Executive Director and Provost, Dr. Roel V. Avila, our Dean for Academics and TLE, Dr. Rodrigo D. Abines, to our Director for Students Services, Dr. Amor F. Lonisa, to our OIC Director for Finance and Administration, Engineer Suryo, our MC for today, Professor Siren C. Osenya, to all faculty and staff who participated this webinar, to all students, our friends from the different parts of Region 4 who joined our webinar today, we thank you very much. And may we have a nice weekend to all of us. And may we be
Thank you very much po. And now, for this photo opportunity together with our guest speaker this afternoon, may I request everyone to please open your camera and please wear your best smile for the documentation purposes. Sir Joshua, please lead.
Okay, please open, pa-open na po ng mic. Ay, ng video po, camera. Ayan. While waiting, madami pa po, almost 2 slides pa po ang hindi naka-open ang camera. Okay.
Kaya hindi kaya ng ano.
I think hindi na po sila mag-open, so let's have the photo op po. Ready? First slide, 1, 2, 3. Smile. Second slide. 1, 2, 3. Third slide. 1, 2, 3. And okay na po.
Okay, once again, thank you very much. Always remember, sa TESDA may piso para sa taong nais matuto at magtrabaho. Sigurado, aasenso ang pamilya mo. Magagalak pa ang bawat Pilipino. Thank you very much po sa inyong lahat. Thank you very much po to the guest speaker.